take a nice cleansing breath as we anchor into this awareness that that which is God, the good, infinite goodness itself, isn't present just with us, nor is it just present within us, but it is us. It being all there is. As Joel Goldsmith says, God expresses God, and that expression appears as you. So we breathe into this space of joy rising, prosperity rising, health and well-being rising. As Yeshua said, I did these miracles and so can you, and even greater, but you must know. So we anchor into this knowingness with this breath. There's never a moment when we pause and we wake up in the morning and we think, is there going to be enough breath for me to breathe by noon? We simply breathe. And the breath is taken care of. So we breathe into this presence, in this present moment, and receive the present of the universe, this blessing of life, laughter, joy, community, collaboration, and cooperation. We are the way that God shows up, and it is good. And so it is.
We welcome Reverend Raymont back. He's always joyfully sharing his messages with us. We welcome him back today with his message, Bloom Where You Are Planted. I give you Reverend Raymont.
Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
So I have a question. Is something wonderful happening in your life? Don't answer. Not out loud. Breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in. Because one of the things he said in the song was, all of this love that we have inside can. He said can. Just because something can doesn't mean it will. So today's talk is about blooming where you are planted. That means moving from the space of what can to what is and what will. Pause for a second and think to yourself, in life, have you ever felt sad? Once again, keep it to yourself. Breathe it in, breathe it in. Have you ever felt sad? Have you ever experienced grief? Have you ever experienced anger? Have you ever experienced disappointment? Have you ever experienced that thing that we call low self-esteem or low self-worth? Like the list could go on and on and on. And I want us to think about those things like concrete or asphalt. Have you ever seen one of those pictures where either grass or a dandelion is cracking through? It doesn't necessarily matter what covers nature. Nature shows up. But why? Why would this be? Because nature, if I'm not mistaken, it was Frank Lloyd Wright who said, oh, I believe in God, but I call it nature. If God is all there is, an infinite circle, circumference nowhere, center everywhere, then everything is God, including nature, which means when we look at nature, we're looking at the nature of God. And the nature of God is, wait, hold up a second. You're trying to hold me down, not today. You said, what now? Asphalt did, no. Have you ever seen one of those photographs of somewhere like Chernobyl or somewhere where people have left and years later, nature has reclaimed the space? That's our invitation, to reclaim the space of our lives where all of this stuff has happened and has convinced us that we are somehow less than, or not worthy of, not deserving of. I mean, y'all talk about all this good stuff in unity about love and joy and peace and community and all this stuff, but I don't feel it. See, if you really knew my life, then how many of us go through, if you really knew me, then you probably wouldn't like me. If you really knew my past, you wouldn't be so quick to hug me. We have these thoughts that run through our minds that I'm not good enough about something. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not something enough, based upon the collective consciousness that has created a rubric of judgment, condemnation, and less than. That's why our siblings who still go to church today and pray to an anthropomorphic God have an anthropomorphic God that judges. That's why we sing Christmas songs. You better watch out. You better not. Because the rubric is judge. Mind yourself. Don't shine too brightly. Don't love too deeply. But if we're going to bloom where we are planted, then we have to pause for a second and think, well, one, what does it mean for me to bloom? Because see, it doesn't matter what kind of flowers. Flowers bloom differently. A lotus blooms differently than a daffodil, than a rose. So we have to pause and check in our own lives and ask, what does it mean for me to bloom? And then when we start to get an idea, so maybe for me to bloom, it's step out of my comfort zone just a smidge. I ain't jumping out, but I'm going to step out a small piece just to begin to move into that space. Maybe it's, I've never really taken a class and I've sort of been, scared or shy about, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for a class. Maybe it's, I've been wanting to go to New York and go to Broadway, and no one's ever wanted to go with me, so I'm going to go by myself and I'm going to enjoy myself. Like whatever that is, treating ourselves to date night by ourselves, with a couple of friends, whatever that is, ask, what does it mean for me to shine? And shine, meaning what does it mean for me to let God be God as me, in me, through me, as me, to such a degree that wherever I go, whatever I say, that is the prayer of the universe, even if it's simply a hello and good morning. It is the way the universe is greeting itself. And I know it, versus, well, it's just little old me. There is no such thing as little old me. That's why I don't like the song, this little light of mine, I'm going to let, it's not little. The light of God, the light of source, the light of spirit is not little. We are the ones who dim the light. In a dark room, and I mean pitch black, where you can't see your hand this close in front of your face. You can smell your breath bouncing off your hand, but you can't see your hand. Like one tiny little flame way over there near the refrigerator. Are we going to be able to see it?
Yep.
Yes. It illuminates. Now the flame itself, whatever size, but the light is visible. This great light of God, I'm going to let it shine. In me, through me, and as me, in all of my relationships, in all of my interactions, are we willing to let it do that? That's the question. And then if we're going to say, well, bloom where I am planted. Well, what is this thing? What is this thing, Ray? You said planted. What is this? It is the situations and circumstances of life. The traumas, the drama, as Jan Van Zandt would say, the conflama of life that somehow pushes us down and presses us to the point where we don't really live. We exist. The lotus grows from the mud, and it is used as the symbol of enlightenment. I'm sure many of us could look back in our lives and say, you want to talk about mud? Man, woo, mud. Well, let's start. When I was 3, like we could start with, and actually, the first fight I myself ever broke up was at the ripe old age of 5 years old when my parents pulled knives on each other, and I stepped between them to stop them from stabbing each other. You want to talk about mud? Like we could go through, and all of us have stories of the muck and the yuck of. All of us have manure somewhere in our lives. We have the guilty things and the shameful things and the secret things, and we have all of these things that we think if everybody knew this about me, they wouldn't like me. It's a lie. It's a lie we have convinced ourselves because the culture of the collective consciousness would rather we hide would rather we dumb ourselves down and dim our lights. I can guarantee you that if we were to pull up any news station today and watch 10 minutes of it, including the commercials, I would be able to point out no less than 50 indoctrinated ideas that they are trying to convince us, you're broken, you need this to feel good about yourself. There's always something, some neat little jingle for a medication that if your knees are creaking and they're creaking like this and it sounds like popcorn, then one pill of this per day will solve all of your problems and put $10,000 in your bank account. All of these things that condition us. What makes a day such as today, cloudy, overcast, gloomy? Who says it's gloomy? The weather forecaster. Who's predicting based upon their interpretation of cloudy and overcast. I might be of the Addams family generation, and I might like cloudy. So how do you get to tell me, but how many of us hear the Piper melody of not good enough, not smart enough, not handsome enough, not something enough? And so just as we're like, yeah, never mind, and we wilt, and we wither, and the seed stays simply a Christ consciousness, waiting to show up and transform the world, waiting to bring the gift of God to the world as each of us, waiting, but that seed stays buried. It stays in our pocket. It stays in the drawer, in the kitchen with the other, utensils and things and hammers and stuff that we never touch. But it's there. I know it's there. How many apples are in one apple seed? The concept, if we really dive into it, an infinite number. Because from one apple seed, you get what? One apple tree. How many apples grow on an apple tree in one season? We'll just say 30. How many apple seeds are in those 30? In one apple seed, you have an orchard. In a couple of generations, you have an orchard from one seed. Imagine what each of us has to bring to the world. And I'm not saying that each of us has to show up and, be a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm not saying, or Mahatma Gandhi. I'm saying God is showing up in, through, and as us right where we are. Bloom where you are planted. You're planted here in this city, bloom. You're planted in that family, bloom. You're planted in this country under this, bloom. No matter what is going on, find the way to nurture yourself. Give yourself the nutrients that enrich the fertilizer. Give yourself the sunlight, whatever that is for you. Oh, it might be spiritual practices that give you, feed you, water, whatever that is for you. Some people, their love language is conversation. Then converse with people. Some people's love language is words of affirmation. Then affirm one another, including yourself. When was the last time, now I'm going to put you on the spot on this one because I let you go with 3 before. Put you on the spot on this one. Raise your hand if within the past week you have looked in the mirror and complimented yourself. In that week. If it was every day, raise your hand. If it was 5 of those days, 3. Okay, you get the point. If we want, pause. I'm of the era when my mother's green thumb, people started talking about playing music for your plants and talking to your plants because it actually helps them grow. Well, if we're talking about blooming where we are planted, then does it not benefit us to talk to ourselves in life-affirming ways? To remind ourselves, pick up your pallet and walk. To remind ourselves, oh, you think there isn't enough? I have this amount of fish and this amount of bread and multitudes. Do not believe that we are bound by whatever structures would convince us that we have less. simply because I ain't got 2 pennies to rub together. But do you have a divine idea? Because that divine idea might give you 10 million pennies to rub together. But you have to trust the idea. And so many people are like, you know, I came up with this thing. Ain't nobody gonna want to use it though. What's it called, Ray? What's it called? See this? Yes. What is it? It's called toilet paper. It's called what? It's called toilet paper. What's it for? For cleaning yourself. Dude, that's a stupid idea. How many of us have a genius idea, but we convince ourselves because something our parents told us, or a 3rd grade teacher told us, or someone somewhere told us and convinced us? What do you think you're doing? You think you can sing? What? Wait, you think you can what? Dance? Get a real job. Don't spend that time on that artsy. Get a real job. Don't express your creativity in whatever this is. Do this instead. Don't dance to the beat of your own drum. Dance to the beat of ours. That's what that message is. The multitudes, the sheep versus the shepherd. Our invitation to bloom where we are planted is to enter into this new space of, I know, not just I believe, I know that what I am is a divine incarnation of spirit. I can never be separate from it. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, no matter what I think, no matter anything. Because I would venture to say, if I were to ask you, how mad would you have to be for your molecules in your body to leave? And what would that even look like? Your molecules are like, oh, he's so mad, let's just go. You would just vanish. There is nothing you can do to create a space where the nature of you leaves you. Your molecules ain't going nowhere. Ever. Because when we go into life after life where that which is love is ever expanding and ever infinite consciousness, this body, wherever it is, whether it's ashes or buried, the molecules of the body will still be in whatever form they are in that space. And that which is infinite life and infinite will be on to the next adventure. There is nothing we could do that causes our nature to not be our nature. Well, if God is all there is, then there is nothing, no amount of lies to another person, no amount of lies to ourselves can make us less God. No amount of shoplifting, no amount of prison time, no amount of anything can make us less than God. In the same way that Jesus said, I and my Father, I am that which is the infinite I am one. One. To bloom where we are planted is to know who and what you are, and to navigate life with that power, with that presence, with that love. Do you know your name? Or do you believe your name? Right? If I were to, what's your name? Do you believe that or do you know it? Right, but in general, we know our names. We know what has been put on our birth certificate, even to such a degree that some people change their names. They choose their name. We get to choose the new name of our expression and the new name of our beingness. What's your name? I am the divine expression. What's your name? I am joy rising. What's your name? I am health and well-being in expression. What's your name? I am the name of that which is beyond the name. I am that which is all of the universe and all of the stars, incarnating as this. We get to choose the name and then live that name. Show up as it. When you enter a space, enter it knowing that you are divine. That means no more playing small. Why would we ever play small? When was the last time a rose was like, I'm ready to bloom? But, oh, wait a minute. What if the other roses are bigger than me? What if they look prettier than me? What if the red is brighter? What if they, never mind. I'm going to just go back and squeeze back into the bud. Just, doesn't happen. Nature simply moves and lives and expresses. It doesn't care. Because if it did, we would not know what a platypus was, because this duck and cat combination would hide itself. It would be like, look, I don't know what I am. I'm a platypus. I'm a combination between a cat and a duck, and I don't know, so I'm going to just hide. It would hide, but it doesn't. It shows up in its glorious platypusness and does what, does it meow or does it quack? I don't know. But it does what it does, and it doesn't care. Which means our invitation is, I don't care what the collective says about me. I don't care what the collective would have me do. I choose to show up. I choose to live knowing who and what I am. Breathe. Myrtle Fillmore said in Going Into the Silence, be still. God in the midst of you is substance. God in the midst of you is love. God in the midst of you is wisdom. Let not your thoughts be given over to lack, but let wisdom fill them with the substance and faith of God. Let not your heart be a center of resentment and fear and doubt. Be still and know that at this moment, it is the altar of God, the altar of love. Love so sure and unfailing, love so irresistible and magnetic that it draws your supply to you from the great storehouse of the universe. Trust God, use God's wisdom, prove and express God's love. Bloom where you are planted. So it is.